Welcome to Military Matters, hosted by retired Major Ricky Harold and Lieutenant Colonel George Fleck. This is a show about, for, and everything regarding veterans. We're all about the issues impacting the lives of our military brothers and sisters, and our mission is to always be insightful, factual, and thought-provoking. 1000.
Hey, welcome to Military Matters. This is Major Ricky Harold. The Colonel's not here, but we've got a great guest today, and he's going to give us some insightful information in regards to our veterans. Remember, this show is supposed to be for our veterans, and we always like to say thank you to our veterans because that's the reason that we have a country today. We also appreciate those that are on active duty and those that first responders that take care of our people here and abroad. So let's just say thanks for their service. Issues, concerns, or questions, you can always give us a toll-free call at 844-790-8255. And those who prefer to text, you can do that at 775-237-2266. And Concerned Veterans for America is one of our sponsors. We always are giving a shout-out to them. And we say thank you for their support. We've got Mike Lawrence here, Leonard. I'm talking about the Colonel. Can you give us, you've got a book that was written, and I'd like to hear a little bit about your bio as well as who you are, what you did, and why you're here.
Well, thanks, Ricky. Thanks for having me. Real quick, I think we have to go back to just before 2020, the COVID hit. And
you mean the bad pandemic?
Bad pandemic. And I'm sitting out in the backyard with a buddy of mine, ex-Navy SEAL named Brandon Webb. And my wife brings us out a couple of scotches, and she says, as we're looking over the beautiful downtown Reno.
Was that a single malt or was that a blended?
Definitely a single malt, sir.
That's my man right there.
Yeah, you got it. So we're sitting there, and he's on my case. He's telling me I need to write some books, write a book about this, what happened to me in Vietnam and other places. And these are things that you just bury in your mind and you just let them go and move on with life. But my wife's been also that, she's always said, you need to write your story. So
my wife tells me the same thing, and I haven't done it.
You should. And we've all got it in us. Is that somebody knocking at the door?
Tell one of his jokes, if it doesn't go off. We have some sound effects, so be ready for that.
Okay. All right. So I got you. Okay. So anyway, I took it upon myself because of COVID. I couldn't go out. I might as well drink a scotch and see what I could do. And I reached back into the memory bank and started to, I asked my friend Brandon, I said, Brandon, how do you write a book? Because he's written several books. And he said, well, first thing you do, you write the hardest part first. So I had to go back in and pull out the middle of the book, became a chapter. I wrote that chapter first, and my wife read it, and she said, I didn't realize any of this stuff had gone on. So it just never dawned on me that I never really talked. I mean, she knew about it generally, but not maybe in specifics.
Correct.
So I got on it, and I just started writing. And, about 6 months later, I have a book. Brandon Webb at SoftRep. It's softrep.com. They published the book. And SoftRep, I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's SOFREP.com. It's a media site.
Yeah, I have it on your bio over here.
Yeah. So anyway, Brandon published it, and it went public, I think, in 2020 timeframe.
You started the military in 1959, right?
I went in 59. Yeah.
Right.
No, I went in 63. I went into college 59, graduated in 63, right into the military, Air Force. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, did the Air Force and out of college and. A little quick story, but Marines, I've got a wife and a child on the way, and I got no job. I've got a degree in political science, and who knows what to do with that. And but I needed a job. And so here comes this Marine Corps recruiter in the door, and he walks in and he says, son, we need you. I said, where do I sign up? So I signed up for the Marine Platoon Leaders class very early on, a preliminary sign up. And he says, I'll be back in about 2 months and we'll sign you up and you'll be off to Quantico and whatever. He never showed back up. Now, my wife's not getting any less pregnant. And so we ended up, an Air Force recruiter walks in the door and those 3 stripes. And I said, he says, you know anything about flying? I said, no, sir. I said, but I can sure learn. So he said, well, sign me up. And off I went to the Air Force, 1963.
And you went in the Air Force as enlisted man?
You go in. I went to the officer training school. I go 3 months through officer training school. Then you're a second lieutenant, and then you actually don't know a damn thing, as you well know if you've been there. And you get a.
So did you paint the rock?
Paint the Rock, you put the sergeant under your arm and you'd make sure that he knows to keep you straight and to keep you in line. So I did that. I became a second lieutenant. I became a weapons controller, working a radar, at a radar ground site in Fort Meade, Maryland. Then I volunteered for airborne weapons controller job, and I ended up in Vietnam in 65, 66, flying to the back of a Lockheed Constellation.
Oh, you were in the Connie then?
I was in a Connie, AEW&C, out in the Gulf of Tonkin, flying 50 feet off the water, minding my own business, controlling fighters overhead to interdict any MiGs that might come out to attack.
Yeah, you were an EWO guy.
It wasn't called EWO. It's a weapons controller, but yeah, controlling fighters. Yeah, what I was doing. Anyway, did that. And the guy in the front seat, the pilot, he tells me he makes an additional $150 a month. I said, "You're kidding, for flying an airplane?" He says, "Yeah." He says, So I went back and I said, "Well, I could make a little extra money if I learn how to fly these things instead of riding in the back." So off I went to pilot training. And so what happens?
Where'd you go to pilot training?
I went to Vance Air Force Base at Enid, Oklahoma.
Oh, I know Vance. Yeah.
Yeah. I was in 68G, the good guys, is what we call ourselves. Anyway, so 68G. Graduated in, would have been 68. Went off and flew Connies again up in Otis Air Force Base up in Cape Cod. One of my missions was we flew an operation up into Iceland. And the radar sites had come down between Greenland and Iceland, the Straits of Denmark. So they put us up there as picket lines, to interdict any of the Russian bombers that would be coming through. And so we did that. Quick story, if you'd like to hear.
Sure.
A very interesting story. So
I'm intrigued because I have a lot of commonality with you, as a matter of fact.
Well, did you fly Connies, or were you in the?
I was in the Air Force before I went in the Army. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
So you got it.
Yeah.
But
mine's kind of interesting. I didn't start out as a pilot either.
But you ended up as one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it happens. It's it's all about the money. No, and of course, Lord.
No, it was all about the fact they had no pilots and they needed anybody
pilots
that passed the test. They said you're out of your you're out of your AFSC, and now you're going to fly a plane.
The thing hasn't changed. The Vietnam War was kicking off, and they needed pilots. So they reached into the back saddlebag, and they pulled out guys like me.
Yeah.
You know how to fly?
I'm a back saddlebagger too.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm in a Connie. I'm in the right seat. I got a wizened captain in the left seat. We roll up out on an active air defense mission. Snow on the runway, ice. RCR conditions are pretty bad.
Did you land at Keflavik?
We're at Keflavik. Yeah. And so
I know that place too.
You know, you've been there.
Jeez.
Line up on the runway, accelerate to go down the runway. The flight engineer had forgotten to put on the carb heat. And so we didn't make our rotation speed. So we ended up reversing, sliding all the way to the end of the runway.
You skidded to the end?
Skidded to the end of the runway on the ice. And this pilot was flying, and I'm watching, and my eyes are this big. And he said, he just simply full reverse all the way down. And then finally at the end, he just
screaming engines
forward on the right side. And off we did like a U-turn, came to a stop, taxied back to the end, and we did it again with our car heat on, and we made it. So it's just one of those stories.
It sounds like he knew what he was doing.
Oh, he knew.
Yeah.
These guys were high time guys. They're talking 20, 30,000 hours in World War II time. And I mean, flying flying C-47s, flying, you name it, B-17, whatever they were flying, but they had a lot of time.
There's a difference. They weren't having bullets coming up their ass at the time.
Yeah. Yep. No, that's it. One of the guys, he said to me, "You got a secondary duty." I said, "What's that?" He says, "You're going to be flying the CH-47, the Goonie Bird. The base ops Goonie Bird is part-time, BC-3, right?" Yeah. So anyway, so I'm flying Connies.
Was that fun to fly?
Hell yeah. But
I heard that people that flew them said they were great.
Oh, great airplane. Airplane. It's a tail dragger too, which that's another story we'll get to. But, I ended up flying Connies and the Goonie Birds at the same time. Then along comes this thing and says, you're in the Air Defense Command, and, your promotions are not all that good in the Air Defense Command. You better, and by the way, there's a war going on over in Vietnam. I went, no kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding. Well, my gosh.
I heard about it.
Yeah, maybe I should get over there and get a little tactical time. So I volunteered to become a forward air controller, flying an 01 Bird Dog.
You were a fat guy too.
I was a fat guy. Were you fly L-19s? Or did you fly?
No, but I knew guys that did.
Yeah. So a couple of buddies of mine, a guy named Bill Lynch lives here in town. He's a L-19 guy, Army, great guy. Anyway, so I did the FAC business there for a year. This was 69, 70.
Right.
And
Parrots Beak, and we went to Cambodia.
okay. So just to jump ahead, my wife and I went back to Vietnam in 1995.
Wait.
I'm jumping ahead?
Yeah, you're jumping too far ahead.
Okay.
I'm gonna step on Ricky's toes a little bit here because you mentioned 69. So let's stay there.
Stay there.
And again, I want to.
It's always a good
6 is a good year.
Yeah, and I want to help promote your book a little bit.
Oh, okay.
So in the book, Thanksgiving Day, 1969.
Yeah.
1969 stands out in your memoir as a life and death struggle against North Vietnamese forces right on the Cambodian border. So, question: so how has revisiting that traumatic experience in writing reshaped your understanding of survival, purpose, or fate, or anything like that? Has it?
Okay. Clearly, when you're talking about PTSD and things like that, that comes to be
right.
So that was the one that let's talk about it. Like,
this is a tease in your book. Take advantage of it.
It's a tease, and I call it the turkey shoot because it happened on Thanksgiving Day of 1969. So just to back up one day, actually, I got off of a reconnaissance mission the night before, and I taxied into the bar at Bambi Tuot. It was an old, big hunting lodge that Emperor Bao Dai had, I think it was.
You never been to Benoit?
Oh, I've been to Benoit.
No?
Yeah. But at Bambi Tuot, so I get out of the plane, I go in, and my boss says, "Hey, we got a message from one of the special forces camps in our AO called Duklop." And Duklop.
Well, that's a mouthful right there.
Yeah, Duklop. Yeah, it was and then we had several special forces camps in our area right on the Cambodian border. So they said they're taking a lot of flak and fire and artillery and RPGs, and they're getting some prodding at some of the positions around the camp, and they think they might be under a bigger attack, and can we get somebody out there to help out? So
they were expecting company strength, got regimental strength.
Well, what you do is, you'd like to have more soldiers and ground troops show up, but they weren't available. And so there's artillery, and there's the forward air controller. And the forward air controller's job is to fly out there, fly over the camps, over the good guys, and then bring in airstrikes, fighter bombers to bomb enemy positions around the friendly guys. So unfortunately, it was nighttime, and we couldn't get out there till first light. And my boss said to me, he says, "I want you on that airplane at, when the sun comes up, I want you on your way."
Were you flying a Piper Cub?
I was flying an O-1 Bird Dog. It's the Army calls it an L-19, but it's a single engine prop.
Yeah, that's actually in my next question. So continue.
Okay. Well, go ahead and ask the question there, Greg.
Well, okay. So did you finish on Thanksgiving Day? You feel good about that?
Oh, we got the job done, but I'll tell you what the job was.
Okay.
So I get out on station and I get airborne. It took me a little bit longer to get airborne because the weather had come down it was kind of like 1,000 feet ceiling.
You were socked in.
I was pretty much socked in, but that's okay. I took off. I got up and I was flying below the clouds, maybe 800 feet or so. And there's a road, about 15 minutes road down the road to the Special Forces camp at Duklop. And I fly down there, and as I'm approaching, the terrain is higher, so I can't get into the camp area. It's on a little bit of a lower area where the camp is. And I can't get across this ridge line because the weather's on the ridge line. I don't have any instrumentation, it's what you see.
Mm-hmm.
The airplane is very rudimentary. So I decided I couldn't get in there, and I'm telling the guy, and the guys at the camp are yelling, "Come on, we need you, we need help, we need artillery adjustment, we need whatever we can get." So I couldn't do it. So I turn around, and as I'm flying back up the road toward Bambi Tuot, I'm thinking to myself, it's got to be some way to get in there and help these guys out. So I decided to do a little time and distance. So I turned north, went over the jungle, and because I could see that the weather was a little bit above the trees, and so I kept moving north. I went about 2 minutes north. I looked to my west, and then I could see the clouds were a little bit above that, and so the train had dropped off a bit. And so I turned left to the west, and I went a couple of minutes west, and then I turned after that, and I headed. The weather was still above me, slightly above me. And now I'm heading south. I'm heading toward I know I'm heading toward the camp, but I don't know where I'm going to pop up if I even make it out of this jungle area. I'm probably down 100 feet over the trees, maybe less. I mean, literally the monkeys could probably see me and wave at me. So it was that tight. And all of a sudden, I don't know what, God must have put his hand on my back or something. He said, "Look," he says, "weather cleared just enough where I popped in over a creek bed and out into this little low echelon area, low terrain area. And I look over, and on my left is the Special Forces camp up on a little hill. And the weather's down probably 200 feet where I am, maybe 300. And so I get in touch with the guys at this camp, and long story short, they said, we got fire coming from near the runway over here. Give me a vector, give me about 500 yards, this. And so I started adjusting artillery. I couldn't get any airstrikes to put in because the weather was on the deck. So I'm starting to adjust.
Well, they'd be dropping bombs in the blind.
They wouldn't, and they wouldn't do it. You know where you're going to put the bombs. So I started adjusting artillery, and I adjusted artillery for probably a good hour and a half. I mean, how far was artillery? The arty was probably 10, 15 miles away, 10 miles.
Quite a ways.
10 miles, yeah. It was a couple of batteries, and I had some
155s?
There were 155s, 175s, and 105s. Now, I don't use the
What's a long range for a 105?
Yeah, well, it was the 105s that did the job. It was like 10 miles. So I think they can go like 13 miles, something like that.
You're almost at max range.
Yeah, it was max range for these guys. And, but with a 105, they're so good at adjusting, and you can get so good at adjusting artillery, you can literally walk artillery.
But yeah, you literally walk it in.
5 meters, 5 feet, either way, and just keep going. And I worked up and down the tree lines along the runway. I worked all the way around. And about at this time, I ceiling them out up to maybe 400 feet, and I went up about another 100 feet, now maybe 300 feet. And all of a sudden, I get what a Dushka is, 12.7. It's a 51 cal is what it is. It's a Chinacom Russian anti-aircraft gun. I get one of them opening up on me from this direction, from the south.
So you got lit up by the AAA.
I get lit up by the AAA once I popped up a little bit. And then the good news is when they fire at you, you see these green tracers snaking up at you, and you can dodge them. So I dodged them and kept adjusting artillery. I stayed down a little lower than I probably should have, but I kept down low so they couldn't get what they call defilade on me. So anyway, I then swung out, and then I started getting a yell from an outpost. It's up on a little volcano, the extinct volcano. It's just a ridge line, and it's very identifiable, but it's a little ridge line. It's about a mile off the Cambodian border.
Somebody with an SA-7 wasn't pinning you, was they?
No, I didn't get any of that. No, I didn't get any of that. Just the 12.7s, just the 51 cals. Because when I went up and I was connecting now with the guys on this volcano, they're taking a lot of probing, and the guys are trying to come up the side of the volcano, and they're mowing them down. And I swung off, and I put some artillery all along the bottom of the volcano for them. And as I turned back to the north, up comes another one of these 51 cals, these 12.7s, and it's coming at me. If I go up, he shoots at me. If I go down, he can't see me. I was, like I said, in that defilade position. So here I've got two 51 cals, one out to my west, one out to my east, and they're trying to bracket me.
Crossfire.
So crossfire. Well, in the meantime, I've taken some AK fire, and you can feel them and hit the airplane. Your airplane kind of jinks it a little bit. So I get hit a few times in the tail. Anyway, I'm swinging and I'm jinking, meaning moving the airplane constantly. Right. You know what I mean? And so I swing it back around, and I've been up for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And the camp, the Special Forces camp at Duklov calls me. So we got two inbound gunfighters which are helicopter gunships. And they're with I think it was the 281st Assault Helicopter Company, Wolfpack, as a matter of fact, because here we are in Reno, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
They were Wolfpack was their call sign. And the Wolfpack, two of them show up, and these guys, I gave them a briefing on what I've been going up against.
Cobra gunships?
No, they weren't Cobra. They were actually Huey gunships, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And some great guys. I mean, excuse me, balls as big as brass. These guys were tough. And so they came in, I briefed them, and the first guy in, he makes I tell him, don't make your run-in heading along this line, because that's where they're going to shoot at you. So I try to get him to come in at a different angle, but he thought he knew a little bit better. So he swung around, came in at a different angle, and he didn't even make it. He shot some rockets off, and he was opening up the machine guns, and he says, I'm hit, I'm going down. Boom. He makes a right turn right below the volcano and just crash lands. Boom. And there he is. And meantime, I'm going, holy crap, Now I got a crew of 4 guys on the ground, And
that's where arty fire is going.
I stopped the artery, I stopped the artery. Whoops, I'll stop the artery altogether, and got myself in a position where I'm over the top of these guys. And now, when they dismounted, there's a guy named Daryl Evangelo, another guy that was one of the door gunners, and they jump out and they're positioning themselves like they are trained to do around the helicopter to 4 points around the helicopter. Problem is, the guys on the west side were literally 100 yards from where I was putting the artillery in. And so I can see the guys underneath the trees. They dug under the trees and little trench line, and I can see them. And they're hosing down these guys in the Huey. And so these guys in the Huey jump up. They run all 4 of them get in a little ditch on the right side of the airplane, of the helicopter. And I swing in over the trench where these guys are, and I just stuck my car 15 out, and I can't see what I'm hitting, or I'm just shooting machine gun and everything in this trench and along this tree line.
Well, you got balls of.
Well,
I'm thinking about the adrenaline that was going on right then.
It's you get hyper focused, and it's just about making sure you save these guys, getting the job done. That's all that counts. It's all that matters. It's all you think about. You're fear. No, you're not afraid. You're just doing your job, and you're doing it as best you can. So anyway, I swing around, and now the number 2 guy, he's also taken some hits, but he's still flying. And I think the guy flying that chopper was a warrant officer named George. Anyway, he came flying, and he wanted to come in and pick him up. I said, well, hold it. Let's not just jump in there and do that like this. So he held off, and I said, if we're going to go in, what we'll do is you're going to follow me in, and I'm going to unload my smoke rockets into that trench line.
So you know where to shoot.
Yeah, so you know where to shoot and where it's coming from. And believe me, George, he knew where it was coming from because he'd been hit too. So he comes around, and so I rolled in first, and I came down and I pickled shot my Willie Pete rockets into this ditch line, about 3 or 4 of them. And there was a lot of smoke and a lot of confusion. And when the enemy sees a forward air controller shooting something at them, they usually go for cover because they know that usually something's going to be bombing them right after that. So I put the smoke rockets in and then swung out over the helicopter, and in comes Warrant Officer George, and he comes in and he makes a skid and landing right up behind their chopper. These 4 guys jump out of the ditch, jump into his chopper. He takes off, and when they took off, there were a couple of NVA. These guys were damn close. They almost hit them with their skids, and so they take off. And as they climb out, they get hit some more, but they're flyable. And so I swing in, and I'm machine gunning what I can as well, just shooting up anything I can out there. And anyway, they swung off, and I'm swinging off. Now here comes the problem. They're airborne with 8 guys on this chopper.
They're heavy.
They're heavy. They're hit, but they're heavy. But they're still flying. I'm still flying. But the problem is now I just realized that I look up at my fuel gauge, and I've been flying for 4.5 hours.
So you hit bingo fuel.
I'm bingo fuel. Both of my fuel gauge was 0. I mean, it was nothing. I was on 0, and I thought, that's it. I mean, I'm not going to make it back. It's about a 15, 20-minute flight back up to Bambi 2, and I'm just not going to make it. So I'm looking for roads, straight sections of roads that I can just land on. Anyway, and these guys. So as I'm looking for the roads and realizing that I'm in deep kimchi here, along comes this chopper full of 8 guys swinging by me, all hanging out the side, giving thumbs up and waving and all that stuff. And I thought, this was worth it. Yeah. This was worth every moment of it, every freaking moment. And so I keep going. He fly by me, and they went on and landed at Bambi Tuit. In the meantime, I don't know what's going to happen. Sure. I got the thing. I'm leaned out.
You weren't on the same frequency with the helicopter?
Oh yeah,
You were.
Yeah. I was on with the helicopters, and I'm on with the Tactical Air Control Center, our TACC. I'm on with, if I had fighters, I would have had them overhead on UHF.
Yeah, you're doing cap for you.
Yeah. So so I'm on talking FM radio to the ground and to the helicopters. I'm talking VHF. I'm talking UHF. I'm talking wherever I can listen to me. Anyway, I'm now marching back, and I managed to get the airplane to about maybe 800 feet, maybe 1,000, and the ceiling is lifted now. And as I come, I see the runway at Bambi Tuit, and I'm thinking, I don't know if I'm going to make it.
Did you dead stick in?
Well, you're getting there. You're getting there, Ricky. So it goes like this. I come in, and remember those old pilots in that 121? They taught me a trick years ago. you're flying a prop airplane. You know, you get about 1,000 feet. Once that runway disappears under your nose, you can just chop the power, drop full flaps, and the airplane will come down and it'll land. You'll get it on the runway.
Good old gravity.
Yeah.
Fluttering in, basically.
You're fluttering in. Yeah. So I came down and I landed right there in the first couple hundred feet, and I went up and I coasted out and I started to apply power to taxi off the runway. I made the turn off and the runway and the engine quit. That's how close it was.
I see why that story made the book. Now let's go on. You spent only about 64 pages in the book recounting your forward air controller combat missions, despite having flown under 400 feet in extremely dangerous conditions in that O-1 Bird Dog. So what motivated you to give more space to other parts of your life instead of dwelling extensively on your combat?
You know, I had somebody who read the book and kind of made a comment. I wanted more of the combat experience and the combat stories. And you know, it's well enough, but understand why I wrote the book. My wife wanted me to do it. My buddy Brandon Webb wanted me to do it, and so I decided I was going to write this for my kids, my grandkids, my great grandkids.
Love it.
I just didn't want to fixate on this Vietnam time too much. I wanted to tell them how the heck did this kid from St. Louis, Missouri, find himself.
How many years in did you do?
I did 20 years and 20 minutes.
Yeah. So let's use that then. So let's move into the future years. So your memoir, of course, spans the war, the chaotic early years of the C-5A Galaxy program, and then a high-stakes career in the satellite industry. So how did the adaptability you needed in combat translate into handling crises from in-flight emergencies to corporate boardrooms? Because that's a different kind of emergency, right?
Well, I think in a nutshell, I would summarize it by saying the military, and especially being in combat, teaches you to be adaptable. It teaches you. I always had the impression.
I always called it flexibility.
Flexibility. You're right, Ricky. And so I always thought I could do anything. After doing what I did, I figured I could always do anything. And so I was 82, I think it was, and my wife and I, she won a trip in her company to London, England. We're at the Grosvenor House in London. We're having a big.
I know where that is.
Beautiful. Great place.
That was my freshman year of college. These guys
Yeah. Anyway, so we're at the Grosvenor House in London at a dinner, and I'm sitting at a table with about 8 or 10 people. Guy next to me, I'm talking to him. He's a reserve major in the Army, and he works for a company called Ford Aerospace in Palo Alto, California. And we're chatting up, and we're maybe having a drink or two, not sure, but probably. And he says to me, "Well, what do you do when you get out?" I said, "I don't know yet. I'm just going to be looking for a job." And he says, "Well, do you know anything about software?" And I said, "No, I don't." He says, "Well, can you learn?"
Nobody knew 1982.
Nobody. They didn't even know what floppy disk.
No, you're absolutely right. Both you guys are both right. I said, "No." He said, "Well, can you learn?" I said, "Hell yeah, I can learn." Yeah. I mean, so he took my resume. I sent him my resume. He says, "Now, once you go down to the junior college and you go take Fortran, COBOL, Basic, and some
Fortran.
Fortran. Some computer science course." So I did. I put him on my resume, sent it to him, and he hired me in 1983 as a software quality assurance engineer at Ford Aerospace.
Nice.
That's how I got there.
I love it. Now, you begin the book with a vivid family history, reflections on growing up in St. Louis. And so now, in what ways did your upbringing and values growing up in St. Louis shape you as a pilot, a man, and who you became in the cockpit and beyond?
Yeah, but one of those things is in the 1950s, St. Louis was a beautiful city.
Oh, yeah.
Great place to live.
Oh, yeah.
You can't say that today, but.
Yeah. No, it's kind of gone down the crapper, so to speak.
Back then, did your upbringing and values shape you as a pilot?
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
No, absolutely. Well, it did. It shaped you as a human being, doesn't it? When you've got, one of the problems that we have nowadays is family. Too many fathers, leave the nest. Mothers leave the nest and leave the kids there, and they don't take care of the family. They don't take.
And
care
there's
of the
no
kids.
respect.
And there's no respect. And so, I was brought up where, the porch light came on or the street light came on, your butt was in the house.
Oh yeah.
And my mother, they didn't,
mess around.
They didn't mess around.
Yeah.
I got my keister beat if I didn't do something right.
Got it.
So I feared my mother and father, loving fear, but I feared them in a loving way. And so those things, plus I went to a Catholic high school. I went to a Catholic grade school, Catholic high school, Catholic college. So what does that mean? It means you've got a fundamental.
You learn the basics.
You learn the basics of life, and everything I learned in kindergarten. I should have known. Well, I was regimented. I was definitely all part of that system, and I have to attribute that to just. I mean, my wife will say I'm a good guy. I think I try to be, but those are the fundamentals. Those are the things that shape you, how you're brought up.
I go back to St. Louis, I figure.
I was just back there, buried my brother about a couple months ago. Yeah, God bless him. But no, we're not moving back.
Now, the title of the book, it emphasized, that's a great subtitle, or the title, Bird Dog Pilot.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yet much of the narrative explores your life beyond that role. So I think you just alluded to it. Was it deliberate, a statement that you're more than a combat aviator, or simply was that a marketing choice because it's a great title to it? Not meaning to call you out. But
I'll be honest with you. The title I chose was The Turkey Shoot.
Oh,
okay. But
I kind of like that better.
Well, I did, but then
we had one of those in the Persian Gulf War.
Yeah. But Brandon Webb pointed out, he said, he says, the title, you want to grab as many people. And so
that's true.
The Turkey Shoot might not have indicated what this was all about.
Everybody knows what a bird dog is.
Yeah, well, or they knew combat, they knew American, they knew pilot. So those words, so he came up with that title, and it stuck, and I just made chapter 7, I think it was, The Turkey Shoot.
So now, decades after your Thanksgiving mission that you first talked about, you reached out to a crew member from the down helicopter, the final straw and the catalyst for the book. And so how did that connection awaken long dormant emotions? What did it mean for you to explore that, the shared history you guys have?
So one of the young men on that chopper was named Brudvik. Brudvik. He was from Arkansas and a great young man. I never got to meet him, and I'll tell you what the story was. I'm now at Ford Aerospace, which has become L'Oreal Corporation. Anyway, I'm doing business development work, and I'm in Washington, D.C., and I'm sitting in the Dulles Airport. It's been a long week. I've been there for a week, working to the Pentagon, trying to sell satellites or sell whatever it was I was selling at the time. And phone rings, and the guy says, "Is this Captain Mike Leonard?" And I went, "Well, that's been a long time in a galaxy far, far away." I said, "But yeah, that's me. I was that many years ago." He said, "Well," he went on with a little conversation, and I'm trying to think, who is this guy? Who is he? Just somebody I know or what? And he says, "I run a website for an assault, an aviation company. I think it was the 185th or 183rd Aviation Company." And he says, and somebody's went on the website and has been looking for a forward air controller that might have been involved with him in Thanksgiving of 1969. And I went, "Oh my gosh," I was aware of that. And now all the history is coming back, but I don't know who this is. And so the guy on the phone, Mitchell was his last name, he said to me, "The guy's name is Brudvig, and he was the door gunner on that chopper that went down. He's been trying to find you for 43 years.
Wow.
And
to say thank you.
I love that.
Yeah. So he was, so anyway, we connected on Thanksgiving Day, actually, 2000, whatever it was, 12, I think it was. Anyway, and we talked for about at least an hour and a half. We just talked. We went over the details of what happened, and he basically reiterated and reinforced what I remembered, and I reinforced what he remembered, and he ended up by just saying, "Thank you. I've got grandkids, I got kids, and he's doing well." Well, I said, "Well, we got to get together." So we were going to plan to get together, and in my book I mentioned it. You never trust Father Time.
Yeah.
Okay. So what that means is, before I got to meet up with Dwayne, he passed away. I think he was 65 or in his 60s, and a young man.
Sorry.
And anyway, never got to meet him. But I finished the book. I sent his wife a copy of the book, and I said, "I can't say enough about your husband. He was just a marvelous guy."
You couldn't write this book without bringing him into it.
But I mentioned another name earlier on. His name was Daryl Evangelo. Now, Daryl Evangelo was the other door gunner, his maintenance crew chief door gunner. And he contacted me because he had read the book. He had hooked up with the wife of the second chopper that went in to pick up the guys. Her name was Linda George. And Daryl hooked up with her, and they found me, tracked me down, and they live in Granite Bay down in California near Sacramento. and they came up. It was about a summer ago, and we all met up at Virginia City.
Oh, marvelous!
Had a nice lunch, got to hug and say hi and everything, and it was great to see these guys.
Sounds wonderful. Yeah. Now, you quote a Chinese proverb about living in interesting times.
Yes.
How did that philosophy guide your decision to chronicle such a diverse life from wartime, flight to satellite negotiations?
Yeah.
And what do you hope readers take away about navigating turbulence in any era?
Well, I think the takeaway is the way I wrote the book is, may you live in interesting times. I mean, here I am born in 1941, a week after Pearl Harbor, 1 week to the day after Pearl Harbor. I go through my life, the silent generation. I go through.
Don't tell me your birthday is the 14th of December.
How did you know?
Because that's my birthday.
No, it is not.
It is.
Really? No way, you guys.
14th of December?
What?
1941. Yours is probably
53.
Are you guys both telling me right now, both of you guys are on December 14th?
Yep.
Yeah.
And you just met today?
Wow.
Yep. That is so cool.
Okay. What do you want for your birthday?
I got a choice. I either got Christmas or a birthday.
Wait a minute. Okay, hang on. I got something for you. This is your birthday gift right there.
Oh my God.
I just tell them what I handed you.
Wow. Thank you so much.
It's very cool.
It's a challenge coin.
Oh, I know.
It was one of the best poker chip holders I've ever seen.
Uh-oh, look at this.
Do it, huh?
Look what I'm getting. Thank you very much. So we just exchanged coins. So neither one of us has to buy the drink. So Grady, you're on. You're buying drinks.
That's what I get for not enlisting.
Anyway, so just to back to your question. So I wrote the book to kind of display what interesting times might look like. Just one guy's life, one guy's experience. But when I look at it and I think of all the things that happened to me, for good or for bad, I can only say, my God, I can't believe luck, fortune, skill, pick your pick, how it all happened.
Well, I look at life is that you're either at the right place at the right time doing the right thing, or it's all over but the crying.
Yeah. And I tell my wife, and not to be maudlin, but I say, if I drop dead today, I said, she says, I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, I lived one hell of a life. And that's exactly
I'd say you're right. Yeah.
So that's kind of the reason I used that Chinese proverb. By the way, so I went C5 and then I ended up being initial cadre at the C5, the test team and all that for a couple of years. Went on and...
Were you flying out of Scott?
No, we flew out of the C5. I flew out of Charleston, South Carolina. It was the first C5 squadron.
Yeah.
Anyway, after that, I went to I went to officer training school as an instructor, ran the student activities division there at officer training school. And
so you were back at Medina
Base. Went to Medina Base. And so I had a glider program I ran. So we ran gliders for the students and And I used to have this guy who would come out. He was the wing commander over at Kelly Air Force Base. Great guy. I forget his name off the top of my head. But Willem Spillers, general, is a brigadier general. And I said to him, I was flying around one day, and I said, General, I said, I'm going to leave the officer training school here in a few months. I said, you got any friends up at the 89th Military Airlift Wing up at Andrews Air Force Base? That's home of Air Force One, of course. And he says, yeah, as a matter of fact, the wing commander's a friend of mine. I said, could you put in a good word for me? He says, sure, happy to. Next thing I know, I'm back at Andrews Air Force Base interviewing for a job with the Air Force One organization. And I end up being hired by the 89th Military Airlift Wing to fly Lockheed Jetstars. And so I flew the corporate jets, the Lockheed Jetstars for the executive branch of the government.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I did that.
C9s.
Well, actually, the C9s were later. I flew the Jetstar was a whole, I forget the designation, it was a 4-engine, 2 on each side of the tail. It's a corporate jet, about 8-passenger corporate jet.
Oh, okay.
And anyway, so I flew those. I used to fly Kissinger a lot. Flew the Shah of Iran, Reza Pahlavi, his kid, and that's another story. But
I'll say he's a nice guy.
He was a very nice young man. He was a 19-year-old kid. I picked him up at the Air Force Academy, and he gets aboard, and I put him in the jump seat in between. And I put the co-pilot in the left seat. And so
little schmooze.
Well, he's a good kid, and good kid. Hell, he's in his 60s now, 70s. I don't know. But anyway,
he's in his mid-60s.
I think he lives in the LA area, if I'm not mistaken. So
he's got some business in.
Oh yeah. So he's in the jump seat, and I'm in the right seat now. I've got the co-pilot in the left seat going to make the takeoff. We go out of Colorado Springs airfield of Colorado Springs, high altitude airport. And so as we take off, we rotate, we climb out, and our pilot yells, "Gear up!" I raise the gear, and about that time, I see this hand come up out of the corner of my eye to raise the flaps, and it's Reza Pahlavi. He raises the flaps, and I managed to just smack the flaps just down enough to where, because at that altitude, high altitude airport, and you still haven't got the good flying speed.
You don't have enough lift.
I needed my flaps, so. Anyway, so we did a little sinking and off we went. We managed to recover, no problem, and he understood. But then we were flying over to Las Vegas, and he said to me, "Could we go see the Grand Canyon?" I said, "Yeah, it's on the way. I'll drop down." And so I dropped down into the Grand Canyon, I'm above the rim, and he says, "Can you go any lower?" I said, "Well," so I had to cancel my IFR clearance with the center. I drop into the Grand Canyon down below the rim, and I'm flying the Grand Canyon. VFR. And so I'm smoking along through the Grand Canyon and come toward the end of it, and I pop up out of it. And what I'd forgotten, and these are things that pilots can't forget. Well, no, you got to remember that if you're flying a jet at low altitude, you're probably going to use up more fuel than you expected.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Obviously, that's his normal.
So, I pop up and I look at the fuel, and I'm starting to see lights blinking. I'm thinking, oh, well, here we go. That was a dumb idea. Should have put on more fuel. But
How
anyway,
am I going to explain this when I land?
What you do is just say, "The center, give me a vector to final approach at Nellis Air Force Base." Boom, off I went. Landed without problem, except some lights being on, and we taxied off. But anyway.
How many pounds did you have left?
I won't even guess.
400, maybe?
If that.
You were light.
I was light. I was very light, yeah. So anyway, that was one of the quick stories. Anyway, so Kissinger, Goldwater, you name it. I probably flew a VIP with him, So anyway, did that, and then got out of the service. Here's an interesting one, a quick little aside. So I'm at Andrews, and I'm coming up on my final couple of years there, a year or so, and I've been there for like 3 years. And I applied to become an air attaché, and assistant air attaché. And they came back from the Pentagon. They said, "Well, we got 3 choices for you. You can go to Colombia, South America. You can go to Chad in Africa, or you can go to Iran." I went, Iran, I'll go to Iran, go to Tehran and be an assistant air attaché. I won't drag out all the details, but what happens is I ended up in a situation where I have, a bunch of kids. And so we had to, in order to go over and take the job, you had to put the kids into the international school. So they had, to get an education or whatever. And they had no spots for some of the older kids in the international school. So we had to delay our departure for couple of months or whatever, it was going to be a month. And in the interim, they send a guy who's a friend of mine from the office of the Vice Chief of Staff of the Air Force over to Tehran, and he shows up, and his name is Dave Rader. And Dave Rader shows up at Tehran on, I think it was a few days. He shows up, and he's.
What year was this?
Well,
78.
You're going to know exactly. Yeah, you know exactly the year. It was. It was. What was it? 80. What it was he was taken captive, by the rebellion
at the embassy.
Yeah, at the end of So Dave Rader ended up, and I remember seeing him at the Bowling Air Force Officers Club after he was rescued. Ran across him, and he says, "If you ever see me in a bar," he says, "you will buy me drinks until I throw up." Okay, you got any bar in the world, any place in the world, anytime. I said, "You got it, Dave." So that was kind of a quick story. I don't even know if he'd remember that, but he went there TDY until they could get somebody like myself over there. In the meantime, I went off and went back to C5s at Travis Air Force Base.
Iran went Tango uniform.
Tango uniform.
Yeah, I remember that well.
Yeah. So anyway, got out of the Air Force and went to work in software. Got Ford Aerospace, and they were bought.
Turn down your oak leaves.
Yeah. Well, I had the Oakleys. I'm retired as lieutenant colonel, right? So I didn't go for colonel. That would take too much time and energy. So I went off and became a civilian, and I ended up matriculating, as it were, out of the software business into the business development marketing business for Ford Aerospace and L'Oreal Corporation. And the interesting part is we didn't have much of a business development presence in the Asia Pacific for this company at the time. Every time we'd propose a satellite, our competition was always there with the 10,000 people, and they would win every time. I went over there expecting, my boss said to me, look, go over there, don't hurt yourself, just buy a few dinners, see if you can do anything, but don't go crazy. That's not the way I operate.
He sent you over there to bird dog.
Yeah, a bird dog. If you don't go to win, might as well not go.
Right.
So that's life. You go to win. Anyway, I ended up selling a satellite to the Philippines, $250 million. And the Long March rocket was part of the package that I was proposing. That Long March rocket was a Chinese-made booster, and the Philippines didn't use that booster. However, one of our other satellites did use the booster. It was an Intelsat 7 satellite. It was put on top of a Chinese Long March back in the 80s, I think it was. And when that Intelsat satellite lifted off on that Long March rocket, the rocket blew up and it destroyed the satellite. And of course, all the gas and all the chemicals came down in a village and wiped out an entire village in China.
Oh, no.
And of course, then my company, L'Oreal at the time, because they had purchased Ford Aerospace, they decided they were going to do the right thing and they were going to tell the Chinese that it was your rocket that blew up, not our satellite that blew the rocket up. So good old L'Oreal decides what we're going to do is we're going to prove that it was your rocket. So they write this 130-page report about what's wrong with your boosters, what's wrong with your booster, that it blew our satellite, that it blew up.
Well, how could you blame the satellite? It's just sitting on the head of the missile.
Right. So understand, what we gave to the Chinese enabled them to take their booster, their rocket,
and figure it out,
which meant that we had just given them huge trade secret advantage.
Right.
And Bill Clinton was the president at the time, and I think he went to the guy who was the head of L'Oreal at the time, I forget his name, and he said to him, somebody's going to have to go to jail or pay a big fine. So I think L'Oreal paid about $113 million fine for what happened, for giving them all the
proprietary
all that sort of stuff. So that was a little bit of a vignette offshoot from that story.
That, you got some good ones. So get back to the book a little bit. You've been really candid about some episodes in your business career that were, quote, intermittently intense, mundane, borderline illegal and unethical, end of quote. So yet also deeply rewarding. So how did the moral gray zones of high stakes deal making in business compare to the split second ethical choices of combat? Right? They're different, but they're kind of weirdly kind of similar in some ways, right?
In combat, it's quite cut and dry.
Right.
Shoot or die.
Them or us, save your boys, give yourself up, save your guys, whatever. It's cut and dry, black and white. 95% of the time.
But you see what I'm saying, though? So in that situation, you're ethically grounded, right?
Yeah.
Obviously. Yeah. And then you're in that little in-between generational wise, right?
Sure.
And so...
Well, that's a very...
story.
It's a very interesting question.
And an interesting contrast, right?
It is. And so to go to the other side of it, now I'm working in business. And so what happens? So you're working in business and things happen. For example, I'm in Korea and I'm doing pretty well at selling a satellite to the Koreans, though we haven't quite made it over the hump to get the contract. Well, the reason you haven't gotten the contract is because you didn't pay off the right people.
Oh.
Okay?
Yeah.
And
So, no payola.
So
is that the way the world really works?
It really works that way. So I'll
be honest, that's exactly how it works.
So I'm back at my hotel in Seoul, Korea, and it's 10, 11 o'clock at night, and I get my phone rings. It's my agent downstairs. And they said, you're going to be met by somebody at the door. A limousine will pick you up, and they want you to go with them, and it's okay, and just go. So I get dressed, I go downstairs, I'm standing outside, and a limousine pulls up, and, big old limousine, and back door opens, a guy and says, come on in, sits down. He says, we're going to go meet a high-ranking member of the Korean government. I won't say exactly who. I do say in the book, but so you're going to meet him, and we're going to meet at a kiseng house, a geisha house, so what the Koreans call a kiseng house, something like that. We go meet, and there's a whole party in there, and the geisha girls and everybody's around, and he sits me. He says, if you want the contract, you have to hire this law firm, and you're going to pay them $2 million. this law firm, and they will represent you in Korea. And that was it. I went, well, I said, thank you very much for the offer. And I took it and I left. I got it on a plane the next day and I flew back to Palo Alto to headquarters. I walked into my boss, the president of the company, and I said, here's what they want. And he says, we can't do it. I said, he says, it's not legal. It's not ethical. I said, I knew you'd say that. So that's fine with me. So I went back and guess who came in second in the competition? We did.
Yeah.
But that was a lesson. Right?
Those are the things you live with, though.
And so my wife showed me something years ago, and it said, from Mother Teresa, it said, people come into your lives. They come in as lessons or what's the other word? She's there. They come in as blessings or lessons. That's what it was, blessings or lessons. And she says, that person was a lesson to you.
Yeah.
Not a blessing, a lesson. So I learned my lesson. But now here's the problem. I'm selling a satellite in the Philippines. Same sorts of things in the Philippines that go on in many parts of the world.
It's Asian culture.
It's Asian. It's a culture, and it's just what it is.
I'm surprised they didn't give you Gao Bang. You know what that is, right? Gao Bang is where they bring you in a woman of ill repute.
Ill repute.
And she's your personal escort.
Well,
do you really call them gal bang? How simple but appropriate.
Well, I think that the translation is prostitute, but
I get, yeah. No, it's
can't make this stuff up, right?
I never had that one approach me, but so the Philippines, it was simply, I just had to get the right system in place, and I got an agent who passed away here just this past year. His name was June Batong, and June was a marvelous guy. He had an amazing story of his own. But June, he was the one that was connected to the Philippine long distance telephone company. Well, the problem that I had was I'm trying to sell to the government because it's a government satellite, but they're not the money. The government didn't have the money. This company, the Philippine long distance telephone company, had the money to buy the satellite for the government. So I had to get connected to the Philippine long distance telephone company. So I find myself in Los Angeles and Hollywood, and with a whole bunch of people from the Philippine long distance telephone company, and I've got my crew from Laurel, and we're down and we're wining them and dining them and trying to work a deal so we can get the contract from them. And so back to your point, I'm one of the guys from the Philippine long distance telephone company says to me, he says, we're at the hotel now. He says, can you get some of these ladies to come and visit us at their hotel, at their room? They wanted to have a party. And I looked at him, I said, look, I wouldn't even know where to start. I wouldn't even know where to start. He said, and so I can't.
I'm really surprised you didn't ask for a Hollywood starlet. Well, sometimes they do that too.
Sure. Well, so what happens is the guy turned to ask somebody else in the crowd. He says, where can I get some girls? And so I guess they got girls. We ended up winning the contract, but it was not easy. It was not easy.
You're a couple steps away from corporate espionage.
Yeah. My God. But anyway, but you have to understand that in business. Oh, by the way, one of the ways I would get around certain things that might have been ethical issues is that's why you have subcontractors. Okay, I had French companies that were one part of the payload, and they would bid a part of the payload. And they might have bid a little bit more than it was supposed to be bid, and we accepted their bid, knowing full well that they're going to take care of anything. We call it box.
I found French to be very unscrupulous.
The French they do have their own models, their own business models.
Oh yeah. It's
yeah.
And they need to shower more.
Yeah. Anyways, but so it's just some of the little vignettes, the little side stories that go with this entirely amazing little life I've managed to live.
So now one last question before you, of course, visit more how to get the book, on Amazon.com and all the places that people can get it. So if there's one core message that your memoir aims to convey beyond your war stories or corporate tales, what is it? Is it about resilience, innovation, forging bonds across decades, or, something entirely different? What do you want to leave people with?
I think the message that I would send and tried to send in the book, if you read the book, you'll come to a point toward the end where it says, life is nothing but a series of challenges, roads you lead. And at every road you go down, there will always be a decision point.
A fork in the road.
Right, Rick. Oh, Rick. Oh, Yeah, Ricky's fork. Yeah, he made forks. Okay, I'm sure you did. You too, G-Man. You probably did the same thing.
I don't know.
We all did. But here's the message. The message is very simple. You're going to have all these events in your life, all these forks in the road. If 51% of the time you make the right decision, you'll come out ahead. You'll win the battle for life.
50%?
51%.
Oh, 51%.
You got to be got a little bit better than average.
Yeah, you got to win a little bit more than you lose.
51%.
Yeah.
You can make mistakes. Throw those in the 49% category. Put those in the blessings and lessons category, the lessons, right?
Right.
But it's really decisions you make and the ability to really think seriously about when you're given an opportunity. Should I go to school? Should I leave school? Should I what courses should I take? Should it be technical courses? Should it be liberal ed courses? What is it should be doing? It's the decisions you make throughout your life that make the decision where you're going to end up.
Well, one of the things I find interesting is about Iran, because I had a couple guys when I was a young lieutenant who ended up going, they were part of the intel community, and why they got sent, I don't know, but they actually went to Isfahan, and their whole job was to do nothing more than take the civilians and the dependents out of the country as quickly as they could. And there was something like 15,000 Americans in Isfahan. And so their whole job, and they literally had to tell the families, take one bag of personal items, leave everything else behind. In theory, it's going to be shipped to the coast and get on board a ship, which never happened, but it was supposed to. I mean, they paid for it, right? And their job was to tell these colonels' wives and these officers and stuff that one bag, that's it, like your pictures and personal items that can't be replaced. And the feedback and the abuse that these young lieutenants had to take from these dependents' families was just off the charts bad, because they had their whole lives that was there, and they had just assumed they could take it back with them,
sure,
which had normally always been the case. But this was we're talking about their lives. They basically had one bag, the shoes and the clothes on their back, and they're getting on the back of C-130s and C-141s, and they're flying them out as fast as they could.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's life, isn't it? Yeah. Just think about it this way. If you think about life, you're given one bag, take that bag and do the best you can with it.
Yeah, right. So, Mike, let our listening audience know, and of course, people that will be listening again to the recording, how can people get your book? What's the best way? What's alternative ways?
Yeah.
What would you recommend?
Yeah, well, probably the best way, the quickest way is if you go on Amazon.com and you look up the book. The title of the book is An American Combat Bird Dog Pilot. If you look that book up, it'll pop up. I think it's $15, give or take. And it's either in paperback or it's in Audible. I have an Audible version of it too that I did myself. I actually...
You were the voice.
Cool. I read the book. Yeah. So I did that. And so those are the two ways, Amazon, Audible, and paperback. You can go to SOFREP, SOF at Sierra Oscar Foxtrot Romeo Echo Propa.com, SOFREP.com. You could probably get it there as well, I think. I haven't tried recently, but that's another opportunity. And then, hit your mother, grandmother, your uncle, your aunt up for a gift, and tell them to go on Amazon.
Oh, sure.
I'm glad you changed that. I thought when you're saying hit your mom,
hit him up.
Yeah.
You probably don't know this person. I doubt that you would, but his name is Skip Burnside.
Don't know him, I don't think.
I assume he's still in Florida, but last I knew, but he was, him and I were cadets together at San Diego State U. And Skip was a 19-year-old Cobra gunship pilot at the Parrots Beak, 1970. He was there.
Jesus.
And he was one of the lead Cobra pilots. He's one of the only few people I know that had, he was 19 years old. He's now 20 years old. We're both cadets at San Diego State U. And he had 48 air medals.
Jesus God.
I mean, can you imagine? And because he was a pilot, he lost two of his gunners that got shot out and killed while he was flying helicopters. These are all factual.
Chuck Johnson was on with George Fleck a while back. Chuck Johnson's a former helicopter pilot in Vietnam.
I was there.
Were you there when
Yeah.
you met Chuck? LZ X-ray, LZ Albany. He was one of the choppers to go into that nightmare to help pull those guys out and drop off ammunition, water, and take them.
Oh yeah,
that out.
He
Amazing.
choked up. He really did.
Well, I tell you what. How do you bring that stuff back?
Tough to talk about.
Yeah.
This is my wife in front of my bird dog. I'm
Oh,
showing you.
she's a looker.
Oh, yeah, she's 79 years
A little
old.
cutie.
Just had her second hip replaced this last week ago.
Oh, God bless her.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I love it. Hey, Mike, do you have any organizations that you? Let's give them.
So my shirt here.
Yeah, air races.
is the QBs, the Reno Quiet Birdmen. It's if you're a pilot, you've got 300 hours of pilot and command time, and you'd like to join. It's kind of a long drawn out affair, but it's a great organization. We have probably 60, 70 people here in Reno that belong to it, and we meet every once a month.
Is that a nonprofit?
It is definitely a nonprofit. Any money.
How can people find it?
Of course, if you're a pilot, you got 300 hours of pilot and command, and you're interested, you can contact me, Mike Leonard at mgleonard@charter.net, and I will get you connected. That's one way to do it. Another organization I want to get a big yell out to is my happy hour group. I go on Mondays and Thursdays. Chuck Johnson's a member. I had some great guys, Pete, Gary, all you guys out there. Say hi. Hi.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, Ricky, let's take us home.
Yeah, well, I always say thank you to our first responders. Absolutely, thank you to our veterans. And we always want to give a shout out to all those who are active duty, doing the job that we did in the past. And we're glad that they're standing the march and doing the watch today. And we say thank you for your service and their families too.